Hello everybody, welcome back to art. This is our first Friday of the school year, and it is a full Friday, so we're going to go ahead and finish our Elements of Art foldable. So by now, you should have your foldable in your sketchbook like this, glued on the back so that you can open this up and it won't come off. And you should have labeled your page Elements of Art. So let's go ahead and start with color. Now color sounds kind of self-explanatory, right? We know all of our colors. It's red, blue, green, yellow, orange, violet, red, orange, all that fun stuff. But there are a lot of different categories of colors. So let's go ahead on the left side of our foldable page, foldable flap, For color, we're going to go ahead and if it comes off the side, that's okay. I'm just going to fold it in like this, and then I'll fold it back once it's time to close it. So on this side, I want you to write the word primary colors. Write it in all caps. Primary colors. That's P-R-I-M-A-R-Y and colors. Now, do you guys know what primary colors are? If you said red, blue, and yellow, then you are correct. So what I want us to do now is on primary colors, I want us to write down this definition. It's really hard to see, I apologize. This definition. The three colors that create all the other colors. Now at this point, what I want you to do is go ahead and pause your video, and I want you to get yourself a green, red, orange, yellow, blue, and purple colored pencil, marker, or colored pens, as long as you have these 6 colors in front of you. So again, that's red, blue, green, orange, yellow, and purple. So go ahead and pause that and do that now. So what I want you to do first is get out your blue colored pencil, and you're just going to color in a blue circle like this, about that big. And then you'll take your red colored pencil, color in a red circle like this, and then you'll take your yellow and do a yellow one. It's a little hard to see on mine, but I promise you it's there. Okay, once you've done that, we're going to move over to the right side of our foldable, and we can unfold that. So on the right side, we're going to do something called color equations, and what I want you to write, it's really difficult to see this, isn't it? I'm going to write it pretty like this, but small enough so that it only fits on the top portion, okay? So the top portion of our box. So you can write it in your best Spalding, or you can write it in block letters like I did on the top of the page. Now, equations is spelled E-Q-U-A-T-I-O-N-S, color equations. So what do you think a color equation is? We know that an equation is math. So how do you do math with colors? The best way to explain this is we're just adding our 3 primary colors together to make new colors. So when we add our primary colors together, we get all of the other colors in the rainbow. So what happens when we add red and blue? Does anyone know? So I'm drawing a red circle, the plus sign, a blue circle, and I'm going to draw an equal sign. The color we get is violet or purple. I'll bet you knew that one, though. That one's a pretty easy one to remember. So now let's mix our red again. We're not going to mix it with blue this time. We're going to mix it with the next primary color, yellow. Now red and yellow equals what? If you said orange, you're correct. Red and yellow makes orange. And now lastly, we're going to mix our blue and our yellow. And what does that equal? What do you think? Look at all the colors you have in front of you. What have we not used yet? If you said green, you're correct. Blue and yellow make green. So you can make all of the colors in the color wheel with the primary colors. Now what is a color wheel? That looks a little something like this. And all you do, the best way to make it is to draw a circle. And draw an X, a big X in the middle of the circle. And then one line down the middle. So it looks kind of like a pizza. So we're going to fill in our color wheel. Let's go ahead on the top. We're going to color it in red. Now don't move forward until I color in the color with you. So put your red down after you draw that slice. What comes next is orange, because red and yellow makes orange, so orange sits in between red and yellow on the color wheel. So this is a good way to remember too what colors mix together to make what. And it'll become clear as we continue to go forward. So now what's next is green. And what colors do green make? Or what colors make green? My apologies. That's blue and yellow. So blue is next to green, and so is yellow. Do we see a pattern now? See how red, yellow make orange? Oops. Yellow, blue make green. So violet goes next, and that is blue and red together. And now you have your beginner color wheel. Alright, so let's go ahead and close our color tab. We're going to open up our line tab. So on the left side of your tab, I want you to write this quote, and write it in your best Spalding, your best cursive. A line is a dot that went for a walk. And unfold that tab, and on the right I want you to write Paul Klee. P-O-A-U-L, capital K-L-E-E. And what does that mean? So let's go ahead and draw 1, 2, 3, 4 dots on the right side of our tab. On the first one, just draw a straight line. So do we see how when we start any kind of mark, we always start with a dot? Not a big one like this, but your pencil goes down and it makes an indent on the page. So that's a dot that goes for a walk. And this is a straight, thin line. Now maybe we can make a straight or a wavy, thick line. Now, because I'm using a pencil, I'm going to have to go back and make it a little bit thicker. I can color it in. The difference between these two lines is not only that one's straight and one's wavy, but also that one is thin and the other is thick. And that kind of difference is called line quality, and we'll learn more about that later on. So on your third dot, you can make a zigzag line. And on your last dot, I want you to, within the range of the page, just draw whatever kind of line you want. I made a lazy, kind of gooey line. You guys see it? It's thin. Okay, and after that we can close our tab. And move on to shape. So what is shape? We know what shapes are, right? Can you name some different kinds of shapes? Think about them. Don't write them down. Just think about the different shapes that you know. So what are some shapes that you thought of? Maybe it was a square or a circle, maybe a triangle. These are all great shapes. Now, what is a shape? What's the difference between shape and form? Well, a shape is a two-dimensional, comma, flat object. And a shape can have width and height, but not, and I'm going to draw that little no sign, depth. And we'll learn what depth means when we get to form. So there are different kinds of shapes also. On your right side, I want you to write geometric and organic. Draw a line underneath them. You can split them in half. Geometric shapes look like these. I'm just going to draw an arrow to what I drew. And if you didn't draw these shapes, you can go ahead and draw them underneath your geometric. It's a square, a circle, and a triangle. Now, organic shapes are the kinds of things that we see a lot in nature, like a leaf or a cloud. Do we see the difference between these two? Okay. So now we're going to move on to form. Now, a form is different from a shape. A form is three-dimensional It has width, height, and depth. What is depth? Have you ever heard the word depth before? D-E-P-T-H? Depth means that something looks like it has longer sides. It looks like you can kind of walk around it. So if I gave a shape depth, this is what it would look like. If I draw a square, that's just a shape, right? So let me draw an arrow. I'm going to draw a square. Looks kind of like a rectangle. I'm going to draw diagonal lines coming out of each corner. And then I'm going to connect those lines to make a square with depth. Do we see the difference? This has multiple sides. This has one side. So that's what a form is. And a shape does not have multiple sides. I'm going to close that. If you're not caught up, go ahead and pause and get a little caught up, please. So value, remember what I said, value does not refer to cash value. Value is, you're going to write this on the left side, the difference, D-I-F-F-E-R-E-N-C-E, between, B-E-T-W-E-E-N, light and dark. Now this can refer to a lot of things. So it could be physical light, like a light bulb, but it also could be the difference between white and black, okay? And I mean that in like the color sense. So let's go ahead and I want you to draw kind of a longer rectangle, and you're going to split it into thirds. And on the top, I want you to write, top of the left one, write light. The top of the right one, write dark. And if you want to grab a black colored pencil, that's fine, but I'd rather you use your pencil for this. On the dark one, I want you to fill it in enough so that it kind of looks like a pitch black room, like a room looks with no light. And if you made your rectangle long, you're going to need to fill in the whole thing. Don't fill it in little patches. So this should be pretty dark, and this is going to stay very, very light. And in the middle now, because white and black together make gray, you're going to lightly color in the middle one. Now you're just going to apply very little pressure, and if you don't know how to apply little pressure, I want you to hold your pencil higher than you normally do and draw it aside at the side of it. And that is the perfect amount of pressure that you should be applying for this color. Do you guys see the difference? Difference between light and dark? There's like this transition between light and dark, and that is value. I'm going to close that one. Now let's move on to texture. Okay, texture. Have you ever eaten something and said, ooh, that feels weird in my mouth? Like maybe you've eaten oysters, or you don't like the feeling of those cherry tomatoes when they pop in your mouth. That is texture. You don't like the texture of the food, and that is the way that something feels. So you're going to write on the left flap, texture is how the surface of an object and I'm writing feels in all caps. So if you describe the way something feels, you might say words like this. On the right side, let's go ahead and list some texture words. So you could say hairy, like that animal feels really hairy, right? Or on the same way, you could say fuzzy. You can call something rough, like sandpaper is rough. Or bumpy, like a bumpy road. Smooth. And I want you to fill in one texture of your own right here after smooth. And in the exit ticket, you're going to tell me what you wrote in, okay? So let's go ahead and close that. And lastly, we have space. This one is a little more challenging, but I'm confident all of us will be able to understand it in the next few weeks. So space, like I said, does not refer to outer space and the stars. So space is the area in, above, around, or below an object. So if I have this water bottle here, everything around it, and that's all the space in between these two objects, that is space, okay? So it's not something you can feel, but it's something that you can see and analyze for yourself with your eyes. So on the left side of your flap, you're going to write the area dot 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 in, around, above, comma, or below an object. And the area that we're discussing that I said is around objects, that is what creates different illusions. So a good example of that, on the right side, I want you to split it into thirds, just like we did our value piece. On the first side, in the middle, I want you to draw a dot. And in the middle of that dot, if you have like a straight edge or you have your ruler or just a piece of paper, I want you to draw a straight line like this. So now we have a straight line and a dot in the middle of our box. And what I want you to do is from that dot to the corner, draw a straight line from one to the other corner. And do we see how it comes in like this? So imagine you're looking down the street. That is what happens when the area around you gets smaller perceptively. So you see it getting smaller. So let's draw a sunset. Okay? So imagine this is a road, and you can I like to draw little tick marks getting bigger the further out they go, so it looks like a road. Okay, so that's one example. We're going to label that 1. And now, on your second square, here's what I want us to do. Draw a hill coming down like this. Doesn't go to the very end. And maybe you can draw a tree. You can draw a house, whatever you want to draw. Just draw something sitting on that hill as long as it's great heart-minded. Okay, and now we're going to do something called overlapping. So we're going to draw another hill coming down in the same way that the first hill came, but it's going to go behind that tree. And then we'll draw one more going behind that hill. So this is something called overlapping. And this is the illusion that things get a little bit lighter as they get further away. So if you put your flap over, you can see that I've also done this in the cover of your flap. Overlapping is a great way to create the illusion of space, that you can kind of walk in and around something. And we're going to label that 2. And on the last one, here's what I want us to do. We don't need to cover in the whole square, so just draw one more square inside of it. It can be a little bit smaller. And I just want you to draw a diagonal line from corner to corner. It doesn't have to be perfect. And draw another square inside of each. So it kind of looks like a domino, just a little bit. On the left side, you're only going to color in this square. Okay? On the right side, you're not going to color in the square. You're only going to color in the area or the space around the square from the diagonal line to the end of the outside shape. Now only color within this smaller square that we drew. Don't color within the big, larger area. So this is something called positive and negative space. So let's pretend that the square is the object. The positive space is the square. The negative space is the area around it. Okay, we'll talk more about that later. So don't get too worried about it. And we're just going to label that 3. Okay. Now you can close your space flap. All right. So now when you open each flap, you should have examples of each thing as well as the definition of each thing. Okay? And we'll use this throughout the year, so make sure you take really good care of this page. Now what I want us to do is turn the paper over. Remember, we're not using the back. We're going to use the next page. Might be kind of hard to close it. I'm struggling a little bit. Okay. Your assignment that is due Monday is this. I want you to, on this page, I'm going to write out your directions. You need to draw something in parentheses, a scene of some kind that shows 2 elements of art. What does that mean? So let's say I drew something using space, so I'm going to draw my space. So let's say I wanted to do a road, and on that road I have different kinds of trees. So I have, or along the side of the road, so I have a skinny tree with really thin lines that are kind of weighty and loose. Now remember, each tree's leaves are going to look a little bit different. And I'm also using texture. So I'm actually using 3 of my 7 elements. But did you know that texture can be made using lines? So I guess I'm using 2, but I'm technically using 3. So then I can make another tree. Remember, it has to get smaller the further back it goes. So I can make another tree that's maybe bigger, a little wider, with bumpier bark, and with maybe heftier leaves. You see the difference between these 2 tree barks? So if I don't want to do that, I can also, let's draw another square, or I can draw my scene. It's a little lopsided, that's okay. If I don't want to do that, what I can do is I can maybe draw a bunch of different forms. Remember, form has depth. That one's a little funky, huh? I could draw some different forms, like a cone or a cube. And I'm going to go ahead and draw this line so that it looks like it's sitting on a table, right? And I could color them in using my primary colors. So I can do a little bit darker red on the sides. I could do lighter red in the front. So I'm pushing harder with this red color on the sides, and I'm going to hold it further down. I'll push lighter for the front. Now you're using value, you're using form, and you're using the color. So it's really just whatever you want to use. I want you to at least apply 2 things, okay? So let's do blue. Now, if you've done shading before, you can start on the edge. If you've never done shading like this before, don't worry. Just do what you can, as long as you try. Remember, I talked about that. And I can start applying less pressure until I'm at no color. You see that? And then I can color in the back on the table with my yellow. And that creates a pretty fun picture, huh? You can also make flowers out of primary colors. You can draw your family out of primary colors. As long as you're using 2 elements of art at the very least. You can use more if you want. You can draw people using funny lines in primary colors. You can draw flowers using funny lines in primary colors. You can draw bugs like we did last semester. There's a lot of stuff you can color in with primary colors. Okay. So remember, the assignment is to draw something. You can draw it within a square like this, about this big, that's the size of your hand, using 2 to 3 of the elements of art. And I'm going to go ahead and write that in on my directions. And I'll bet you guys can think of a better thing than I did. I think you guys are pretty smart. You guys can handle it better than I can. I cannot wait to see your art. It should be submitted via photo on Google Classroom, and I will have an exit ticket for you, okay? I'll see you guys next time.